Okay.
Yeah, we're good now.
Come on. Don't play with me like this.
Oh, there you go.
No, that's his computer.
There you go.
Keep this up. Good morning, all. For those of you who are new and don't know me, I'm director. My name is Rafael Cestero. I'm the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion for student government. That means I sit in the president's cabinet, along with Saram and Tia Jackson. And so I'm here to give you my first report. I tend to report or try to report about monthly to you guys, and if more often if necessary. I think it's important to keep you guys up to date on what's going on in the work I'm doing, because it's a large part of what SG is going to be doing this year, along with everything else that everybody's doing. But just a quick overview, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself for the new people in the room. Some of the past work I did, I held this position for the Payano administration, which was a 2-month administration. Some of my past work, what I have done this summer, what we've done so far this semester, my new hire, which is very exciting, and then what's to come. So just for a little bit of you who don't know, I was born in New York, raised in New Jersey. My dad is from Puerto Rico, and I consider myself Latino. I am a double major in international relations and voice. And what else? I have been enthralled in SG basically since like last semester. I kind of was thrown into it by my mentor Yami when she ran for president, but I've been chief of staff to the president. I've been director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now I hold this position again. So I know a lot about SG. If new people have questions or need any help, I could probably figure it out. Some of the past work that I've done. So last semester, some of the things that we did were we did an affordable housing symposium. That's a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Both my parents work in affordable housing. I think it's a topic that is very relevant to the work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we did that. And so it was just a panel of 4 people to kind of discuss the impact of the lack of affordable rental housing in the United States. We also did, this was a really huge success last year, the Spring Cultural Festival. This was in co-sponsorship with ISSS, which is the International Student Scholar Services Center. And they deal with all the international students that come to campus. So we partnered with them to kind of do a festival around celebrating our diversity and the many cultures that we have here at AU. And that was in the atrium. It's a very successful event. And finally, we did AUPD listening hours. So if you don't know, last year there was an incident in EQB around a student being detained by AUPD for, we don't really know why, not producing his ID. It was the reason that we were given. And so hearing from many communities and stuff that this was an issue. And so we put together what we called AUPD listening hours, because people were not happy with how AUPD responded. They wanted to ask questions. They didn't know the policies. And so AUPD sat in Tavern for 4 hours, I think, and had like over 50 students just come and ask them questions that they had about the incident. Who sat there? It was high-level administration from AUPD as well. Chief, Sowers, who is the chief of the AU police department, and then both AVPs of public safety, which is Philip Moores and the other one's name, but there's another one who does risk management. And they were both there answering questions, explaining policies, and it was a really good event, and we got good feedback from the community about it. So now on to continuing along the timeline this summer. So one of my big things that was kind of incubated at the very end of last year and kind of came to fruition this summer is myself and President Payano worked with VP of Campus Life, Dr. Fanta Ah, to create a PCDI, which is the President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion, kind of the overarching body around diversity and inclusion issues on campus. There was a sense that they weren't getting enough student input. So we created and generated the Student Advisory Committee, the PCDI. And so this summer, the application went live, and it was fabulous. We had 193 applicants, which was unbelievable, unprecedented amount of applications for a committee like this. They eventually picked 14 or 15, I believe, one including myself. I do sit on the committee. And so, yeah, and I'll get into more about that when we talk about this semester. But finally, what else did I do this summer? I worked on the application for the hiring of, or I worked on the process tangentially for the hiring of the new AVP for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion within the Office of Campus Life. So Dr. Ah was given this new title at the end of last year as the Vice President of Campus Life and Inclusive Excellence. And in that giving of power by President Burwell, she decided she needed to bring on a new AVP to deal solely with the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. There were several rounds of interviews and stuff like that. And finally, they hired Dr. Amanda Taylor. She is fabulous, wonderful person, and a great resource for people. She was formerly the director of the cross-cultural communication program in the School of International Service. She's been at AU for, so many years. She started as the director of graduate admissions at SIS, then was a professor in SIS, and now is in the Office of Campus Life. I also had a few conversations and worked with Tiffany Speaks, who is the director of CDI, our Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Actually, she's now the senior director of CDI for the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. And she's kind of in the process of doing some new hiring and doing some restructuring of CDI around how she wants CDI to function from now on. And there were processes to hire a new director of multicultural affairs, I believe is the title. And students were a part of that hiring process and that finding process, and I was a part of that as well. And then finally, we were planning the Affinity Welcome Back Mixer, which was a huge success. And I know a few of you were in the room. But so far this semester, we had Welcome Week. I attended many Welcome Week events, interacting with the first year students, and kind of showing my face, knowing and letting them know that I'm a resource, both in minority communities, but also in the larger community as freshmen in general. And then we had our Affinity Group Welcome Back Mixer, which was a huge success. We had 153 people show up, I think was the number. And so we had 200 RSVP, 153 showed up. So that's pretty good numbers. It was really good. We got some good feedback about the community. We also got some very good kind of communication feedback around how people heard about the event. So we can kind of start to tailor, or myself, because it's important to me, along with Alice, can start to tailor how we're advertising events and what way people learn about events the most. So that was great. And I saw some faces there. So that's one thing I've done. Senate identity training. So most pertinent to you. Bobby came to me in the beginning of this semester saying, "Hey, have you done any work on the Senate identity training?" And I said, "What's that?" And so after doing some digging into the deep dark web of the Senate legislative papers, I found that at the very last Senate meeting last year, there was a directive passed by this Senate, to mandate my position to create a training for the Senate on identity and all those kind of things. And I thought it was a great directive. And I was so happy that Bobby followed up with me about it. And so we have begun the initial stages to figure that out. This training will be for the new Senate, unfortunately not for this Senate. Just timing didn't work out and stuff. So we're kind of on a pause right now because I'm waiting till the new speaker is elected to kind of figure out how the new speaker wants to run that in the next Senate. But I just wanted to keep you apprised and let you know that I am working on that directive that you passed. I've already been in conversations with CDI, ASAC, and Stephanie Black, who's going to do kind of an anti-Semitism training as well. What else this semester? I attended the CDI orientation. So something new the CDI did this year, they did orientations for different minority groups on campus. They did a student orientation for students of color, and then they did a student orientation for LGBTQIA people plus. And so I went to both of those, spoke a little bit, made myself a resource to the students and faculty and staff in that room. And so that was really great. Those were great events and just kind of a nice place for community, but also for people to gather resources and understand the places they can seek help /aid on this university. So then this semester, what did I also do? I hired a new deputy director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So kind of as I met with Val and Maddie throughout the summer, we kind of started to realize that the diversity, equity, and inclusion work on this campus is becoming a large part of what this campus is doing. They are making it a priority, and so there's going to be a lot of work around it. And that's not to say that we're anywhere good at the moment, that we're not that we're doing good and we're just going to keep going. There's not a lot of work to do because there are so many issues on this campus, and that's why it is going to be a large focus. So I thought, well, you know what, this is going to be a lot for me to tackle as one person. So I decided to hire a deputy director, and that deputy director is here today, and I'll have him come up and introduce himself, Starchild Jackson. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Starchild Jackson. I'm a freshman here at AU. I'm from South Jersey, not North Jersey. So.
Where in South Jersey?
Salem County, so about 40 minutes from Philly. I'm really excited to be working with DEI. I have a really a passion in my heart about diversity and inclusion here. It's very important everywhere, but here specifically since I'll be spending the next 4 years here, and I'm just extremely excited to get working with the office.
Thank you. Starchild was an applicant of the position. The application was sent student-wide and to many different facets of the community. And so after a set of interview processes, we decided to Starchild as a candidate. He has a lot of ideas around different and alternative ways to tackle diversity and inclusion that I think are super important. And he loved getting and talking with the communities and with students. And I think that's a huge part of what this role is about. It's not just about, talking with the administration and fighting the administration, but being there as a resource and as a friend to the people in underrepresented communities. Okay, what's to come, right? The exciting stuff. So I am partnering with CDI on doing what we're going to call these family gathering events. So one of the things as the university and as myself was looking about how we're going to shape our diversity and inclusion work this year in our inclusive excellence plan, we kind of thought, well, we do a lot of work around, structuring and leadership and events and response in times of crisis. But what people I think are looking for and what we've heard from the community is they're looking for just space. Space to be with other people of color, space to be with other underrepresented communities, other affinity groups. And so myself and CDI decided, well, let's do these things that we're going to call family gatherings, which we're going to hold in the new Multicultural Collective office, which is in MDC 262. Unfortunately, not AUCC's office anymore. And so we're going to they're just going to open the doors, have some snacks, have some stuff, and people can just come and relax and be with other people who they feel comfortable around. We're going to see how it works. We're not necessarily sure what is to come of this event, how many people are going to show up, what it's going to be. We think it should be a good turnout, but I will definitely let you all know what kind of our look back and our reflection on it and to see if it works. I'm hoping it's working. This one is the first one is just going to be like a come study and hang out. We'll do a little bit more structure to the other ones, like, hey, come watch a movie or, come draw or stuff, but just very easy things for people to just relax, decompress, and just be around people who they feel comfortable around. Okay, next, PCDI and SAC. So SAC is my abbreviation for the Student Advisory Committee to PCDI. I am sitting on the Student Advisory Committee, and right now it's looking like I also will be sitting on the President's Council for Diversity and Inclusion. We had our first formal meeting last Thursday night with Dr. Amanda Taylor, Assistant Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And it was a great meeting. The group is really excited to get working on some of the things that are to come. We're going to start setting up a formal meeting time where we will meet once a month. And then PCDI also meets monthly as well. And so there's a lot of good work, I think, to come out of that. And know that I'm here as a resource if you have any questions around PCDI and the university's plan for inclusive excellence. They're kind of shaping all of their stuff around the plan. I do, if you're interested, encourage you to read the plan. It's not that long, but it's very informative. And then finally, Senate identity training, we're going to move that, pushing that out to November. Hopefully going to work with the new speaker on that and get going on training the new Senate. I think it's crucial, and I really appreciate the directive that you guys passed, because I would have never thought about it, but it kicked me in the butt to be like, yeah, let's go do that. And so I encourage you to, if you're running for election, and if you're not, it's going to be open SG wide. And I'm going to invite anyone who's in SG to attend. It will be mandatory for senators. But I think it's an important thing for kind of us in SG to realize as representatives of the community, we have to kind of dig deep and understand our own internal biases and things like that, so that we can be better representatives of the community. I think that's it. Question?
Yeah, questions for the director.
I can't really say something, but I'm
Yeah,
way,
go ahead.
There's already a training that was passed by Senator Gillette a couple of years ago before I even came to the university. It's actually it was actually a bill that was passed that senators are supposed to do. It was sponsored with Senator Corriente at the time, but when he became president, he just never executed it. So I have that training as a PDF I can send to you. It was in coordination with senators, CDI, NAACP, and the BSU or the BSU.
So it's a written out training.
It's a whole training on diversity and inclusion. I don't know what specifically how you want to target it towards identity or what you want to add towards it. We'd have to be updated it.
Yeah.
Last year
great.
I
I
was
would love
talking
that.
with Cameron and CDI about what to do about that.
Yeah.
And he told me it would be hard to do, there's a lot to incorporate, and we have to continue those conversations, so I can send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love
Because
that.
it's already there, every senator is supposed to do it, but
Yeah.
it's up to the president to enforce it. So.
No, I would love that. I will definitely send that over.
All right.
Just to comment on that, one of the things that CDI said as I reached out, there's nothing on this body, is that last time they did the training for the Senate, nobody showed up. They scheduled it, the CDI person came in on a Sunday and nobody showed up. So one of the things we're gonna really have to think about is that if we're gonna bring in campus partners, how we actually show up. And that's why I wanna work with the new speaker, because I need to make sure the senators are gonna show up. Because otherwise we're not gonna do it, because I'm not gonna bring campus partners in and then have them on a weekend for that matter, and then have them not having attendance. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Director Sisto. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm just wondering, have you been doing any work with the faculty in terms, I know, I represent CAS, a lot of people have been asking me about sort of diversifying the curriculum and things like that. Has there been any progress with that? Is that a part of the PCDI or the President's plan or anything like that?
So there's 5 parts of the plan for inclusive excellence that President Burwell initiated. 2 of those I think are kind of intervolved. One is training identification for all members of the community, so that's faculty, staff, and students, and administration. And then the other one is curriculum and instruction. And so there is definitely some conversation. That has been the majority of the focus that I have kind of heard in conversations so far this year, because I feel like people have seen the work in terms of campus life. And now we're going to have to start getting into the work in the classroom, because as we all know, our issues and our problems that we face on campus in terms of the campus life stuff doesn't stop at the door of the classroom, but also our identity doesn't stop at the door of the classroom. And so how do we train instructors and professors and administration to realize that whenever there's a conversation around any academic topic, people bring this inherent identity that they have that influences the way they talk about this stuff. And so there's definitely a lot of work going on. I will say that the interim provost, Mary Clark, is phenomenal with this work. She's making it a huge focus. I know for a fact that there have been some instances in the classroom so far, and she has been implemented in terms of going directly to those professors, which has never been done before. And so I really appreciate the work that she's doing, but it is definitely getting work done, and I am working with Mary Clark and the provost office to kind of work on some of that stuff. Yeah. Also, just in case you're wondering, a good resource in terms of academic and diversity and inclusion, if it's not myself, Dr. Dickerson, who is our Assistant Vice President of Student Engagement for Campus Life. While she's in the Campus Life office, she's a longtime faculty member of AU and is very kind of in touch with that system. If you have questions about that and you don't want to bring them to me, she's another good resource to bring them to. Other questions? Yeah.
Do you have any plans for this upcoming year to do any work regarding inclusivity for students with disabilities?
Yeah. So I also reached out. So one of my big goals this year, which I should have mentioned, is expanding that term of what we think of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Because I think last year and through the conversations I've seen, it's very much focused on race, which is okay. That needs to be dealt with, but there's this other sector that needs to be dealt with as well in terms of people with disabilities. ROTC, there's definitely these communities on campus who feel left out. Political ideology, and being inclusive and diverse and equitable around political ideology. And so I'm expanding this idea. I've reached out to ASAC. ASAC is currently going through a lot of administrative changes. Unfortunately, like most of the university and most of campus life, a lot of people have been leaving. But I'm definitely working with ASAC to get some stuff on the books. And then I'm also going to work with some students that I had conversations with last year around that. But definitely working to bring that to the forefront of our agenda, yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Do you have any updates on the status of home? I think we left it last year as a pilot project, and I'm wondering, is there anything new?
Yeah, so Valentina has kind of been taking the lead on home, but I will speak to what I know. There was a conversation, people who had access last year will not have to reapply for access this year. I don't know when that access is being given, because last time I checked, I didn't have access. And so we're working with that. As a pilot program, I believe it is staying this year, but I think there is definitely going to be, I'm definitely going to force some hard conversation, and students are forcing some hard conversation, a hard look at what space we're giving students. I think the move of the Multicultural Collective Room is a positive one to the second floor, kind of more in the open, not hidden on the third floor of FGC. That was a positive move that I thought, but I think there definitely is some conversation around home and more space for underrepresented communities. And that conversation is ongoing, and it's also a part of the Inclusive Excellence Plan. It was written in the plan. So it will be looked at, and it's definitely going to have a conversation about it, yeah. But just so you all know, to clarify, none of these spaces, MGC 262, the Multicultural Collective Room, and Home, are run or affiliated with AUSG at all. While President Dunson and President Payano kind of initiated the push for Home, it is not run or affiliated with SG at all. It is only Office of Campus Life run and affiliated. Student Activities runs MGC 262, and Student Activities runs Home. I have access to both, but that doesn't mean that I have any kind of say in how those things function. Both spaces are run by communities, so SA doesn't have any kind of impact on how the community standards or anything of how it functions. The people who work and live in that room figure out their community standards and how they want the room to function.
Point of inquiry,
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
What is home?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll explain to you. So Home, oh God. Does someone know the acronym?
Hub for organizing, isn't it multicultural equity?
Yes, there we go. Hub for Organizing Multicultural Equity, which is an acronym, which is basically was created out of a necessity for a call for more student space for people of color. But it has not been the most warm, welcoming space. Some have kind of critiqued where it was, how it looks. It's basically on the third floor of MGC, but it's all glass and it's kind of like a fishbowl. But it is a space that came out of wanting more space for students of color. And it was kind of pushed by former President Thompson and former President Pine. Other questions?
This is a quick question.
That's
Is
fine.
the President's Council only undergraduate students or?
No.
Okay.
So on the Student Advisory Committee, we have representatives from undergraduate, graduate, and the Washington College of Law. There is an equivalent of myself on the Student Bar Association, which is the Washington College of Law student government, basically. And she sits on the committee as well. No, it's all. And this year it is chaired, PCBI is chaired by a faculty, a staff member, and administration member. Last year it was just Jeff Rittenback and Colleen Jennings, who was administration and faculty, but now there's a staff component as well. Colleen is on sabbatical. They brought in 2 new people.
Other questions? All right, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
All right, Case Director Hawk, you want to present now?
Yeah, wait, is your internet not working?
No.
Can I email my representative?
Is it in your drive?
Yeah.
Case drive?
Oh, it's not there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, Trevor, Saram is Donnie's proxy and Raphael is Joshua's proxy.
Got it.
Star Child Joshua Brodsky.
Oh, Star Child.
Star Child is Joshua.
Oh, okay.
Correction.
What's your last name?
Jackson. Do you know?
Yeah, you're ASG.
Got it. Here you go. Fancy.
Thank you.
You said it's
Tanya's like amazing
Adams?
at that.
Yeah, Danya is.
All right, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah. For those who don't know me, I'm Saran Hawk, the case director. Pretty sure everyone here knows me though. And yeah, so I'll just get right into it. Yeah, I chose this PowerPoint, by the way. Don't worry, there's no like weird icebergs this time, but I know it's raining outside, but I thought, this goes well with the, fall theme because yesterday was the first day of fall. Anyways, so I'll get right into it with a summary of what's going on with case. I try to make it interesting with my PowerPoints. So here's just sort of like an outline of what case is doing. So external affairs this week, I had several meetings with various administrators from different departments like conduct, academic affairs, financial aid, Title IX, which I'll go into more detail in a bit. We also handled some cases. I personally handled like 3 cases this week, and like other people in case were also dealing with things. So yeah, it's starting to ramp up. More people are coming to us for help, and hopefully it's going to increase once everyone again is trained, hopefully by the end of this week. In terms of what's happening internally, today we're having our first staff meeting later in the afternoon. So hopefully I'll like explain all the processes and procedures to everyone. We'll talk about like NDAs and disclosure forms, etc., and talk about the training that's coming up later in the week. And there's also, I'll talk about that at the end, but we're reforming some of the internal documents, a lot of them, but 2 in particular that I wanted to bring to your attention just because it's important to know. It's sort of a legal thing, which I'll discuss. And then finally, upcoming projects. One is the AIC. So Dr. Thomas is the Academic Integrity Code Administrator for the College of Arts and Sciences, CAS. She's assembled a task force to reform the Academic Integrity Code. It's going to be like a total overhaul, so not just like changing, pieces here and there, but like changing the whole thing. I think I mentioned this in the last meeting as well, but I'm going to designate the 2 chief advocates for academic affairs to serve on that task force, and that's going to be like a year-long thing. So, as the semester and year progresses, I'll just like keep reporting back. And then financial aid, I'll go into detail, but like I met with the administrator or the person in charge of what we're doing there, and we sort of like developed a strategy for what we're going to do. And moving forward, one of the things that we're going to do hopefully immediately is go to AU Central and the financial aid office and try to publicize the counselors, because that's not online. Next slide. Okay, so before I go on, the Know Your Rights Clinic was a pretty big success. When Maya emailed me back and she said that a lot of people from CASE were there, a lot of AUSG people were there, so that's good. For if any one of you all went, thank you.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, oh, you went? Okay, great. Yeah, I know Angela went. Yeah, so it was a success. Thank you for going. I couldn't make exact class, but I'm sure it was really rewarding. They're going to do more of these, I believe, throughout the semester, except they're going to be more like targeted towards the general student population. This one was specifically for AUSG members. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Okay, so like here are the specific meetings that I had. So in the academic affairs thing, the task force, I already mentioned, but the 2 other important things are, 1, student outreach. So Dr. Thomas would like to hold either multiple times throughout the semester at one time, something like a town hall or a focus group with students, like outside of SG, just like general students, on like their thoughts on reforming the Academic Integrity Code, because obviously it's like that impacts every single student, right? It's not just CASE that's going to be affected by the reform. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet. I'm probably going to have to coordinate with President, Valentina. But if you have ideas on how we can, maximize student participation in this, because it's a really big thing, then let me know. Because we came up with, town hall or focus groups, but in the past that hasn't, maximized turnout from students. SG hosts town halls and like not very many people show up. So let me know if you have ideas. Then we also came up with certain ideas for reform. If you have questions about what they are, you can ask me like individually, just because she wants me to keep a lot of the major reform ideas sort of like close hold at the moment because she's the task force is just beginning and she hasn't really I guess she doesn't really want to disclose them very publicly yet because it's like in the works. But if you do have questions, let me know individually. Okay, the financial aid meeting I had was with Gene Logan, who is over in Asbury and AU Central. And so basically, again, like I mentioned last week, it's new territory for us. So we concluded that the three things that CASE can do with financial aid are one, helping with appeals, like Isma mentioned during CRP when she was being confirmed. So, helping students write appeals. The second thing is information. So like I said, I'm going to be working with them in the coming week to get information on who people's financial aid counselors are, because Gene told me that that's not public right now, and I think it should be public. You should know, if my last name is, whatever to whatever, I go to this person, instead of just emailing the black box and then getting a response 10 days later. And then the last thing was transparency, which that kind of goes hand in hand with the information. CASE is also going to serve, hopefully, as the semester progresses and we get more information, as sort of a quick point of contact for students. So, they can come to our office or they can email us and say, I have a question on financial aid. I'm not sure, do I go to AU Central? Do I go to housing and dining? Do I go to financial aid counselors? So once we get all that information, we'll be able to answer their questions and direct them as needed. Because a huge problem that Gene mentioned to me was that students, will come into him, his office, and they'll say, I need to do a financial aid appeal. And then they'll get sent to the financial aid office, and then they're going to say, go to HDP, and then they're going to basically students are bouncing around instead of getting a clear answer. So I think that should be fixed. Okay, with Title IX, so the training is happening this week, hopefully, probably mid to late this week. Regina's going to come in and train everyone. That's super important. That's probably the most important training because it is not just an issue that's governed by university policy, but there are federal laws applicable there. So that's happening. And also, she gave me some sort of business cards, which we didn't have before. So I'm gonna get I'm gonna try and replicate those and get more for the CASE office, and just so that number one, when students come to our office, we can give them that card that says 24/7 resources, etc. Number two, so that when students go to their conferences, Regina or whoever can give them a card. And then the last thing is I had a meeting with Katie Forrest. We also talked about training, but she's going to do that this week. There are some ideas I'm going to bring up to her about reforming the Conduct Code. The Conduct Code is not undergoing a massive reform or anything like the Academic Integrity Code, but there are certain changes that I'd like to see. So that will be something that I'll be reporting back on once after the training happens. Yeah, that's all. Okay, this is another really important thing. So after today, what I'm going to do in the staff meeting today is I'll basically tell this, the staff list your top 3 departments or whatever that you want to be in case, I mentioned we have 5 departments. And then we are going to separate them. And this is important, mainly because this is an internal thing, but I want you all to know because there's going to be a rigid separation. So somebody who's in conduct or a lot of low level people, the associates down here who are in one department are probably not going to be working on other cases because they won't be trained to work on other cases. That's important for you all because if somebody comes to you and says, I need help from CASE, you should always, I know in the past you could just say oh, I have a friend who's in CASE and refer them there. But depending on what their case is, you should just send it to either me or to one of the deputy directors like Angela, or just email case@ausg.org instead of referring it to individual people because they may not be in that scope of jurisdiction. So that's what I wanted to mention there. Okay, and these are the important documents I talked about, important legal matters. So the first thing is the NDA. So I had to meet with the legal counsel, and we went over the NDA was basically not sufficient. It had never been reviewed before, and so they went over it and they made some recommendations and changes. And so that there's an issue with the whole confidential information and FERPA that I have to change. That's important because it's hard to explain because it gets kind of into the legalese, but I guess don't be under the assumption that every CASE member is going to be going going to be like penalized if they like disclose student information, I guess is the way to say that. I know that sounds bad, but that's what the legal counsel explained to me. And I know in the past we've been under the assumption that like it's strict confidential information, you can't disclose. If you do, you get in trouble. They explained something else to me, so I'm gonna have to like rewrite that document. And just for you all to know, that's a pretty big change. I think it's important. And then the client agreement, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but from now on, basically, whenever somebody comes to get case services, we're going to have them sign off on a thing that just explains, what is case, what we do, and especially we're going to emphasize what we're not. So we're going to put in there, like, we're not lawyers, for example, because some people have that confusion. The legal counsel also made some recommendations for that. But that, again, is really important. If somebody does come to you saying, like, I need help with case, if you remember, just remind them that, like, when you go there, you're going to have to sign a client agreement because we don't want confusion. We don't want them thinking we're something that we're not. And yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, and my contact info is there this time. So if you have questions afterward. But if you have questions right now, I'm happy to take them.
Questions for the director, Senator Zitzman.
I've got two, if that's all right. So on the client agreement, have you considered the way you write it, whether how it's phrased, it could discourage people from using cases help if it's too either like intimidating or dense or what have you?
Yeah, I've considered that. And that was one of the things that I went over when I met with Ayana and the legal counsel was that, it is kind of like the client agreement was like when I drafted the original version, it was kind of, complicated and hard to understand. But we made recommendations to make it like very simple. It's just like one page. So like, I don't think it's going to discourage people, but I think it will help them understand that, there are limits to what we can do. Because I don't want somebody coming in thinking that we can like, help them if they got like arrested off campus in like a totally like outside of university jurisdiction thing, right? That's happened in the past actually. So that needs to be clarified.
All right. And then if you could, Trevor, go back to the slide with all the arrows and that would go. I understand that cases staff this year has been capped at around 20. So do you think, given that cap, that you'll be able to sufficiently fill all of these boxes?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Basically, the way it's going to work, again, I mentioned like there's going to be rigid separation probably with the low-level associates, but like obviously the like deputy director / chief advocates are probably going to be trained in everything. And I'd like ideally for at least a good number of the advocates to have cross training so that they're not just restricted to one department, because that does become an issue, like you said, with the limit the number of staff. So yeah, and I can report back on like the specific numbers after training happens.
Senator Robbins.
Well, first I just want to say I really enjoy the pumpkin spice flavored
Thank you.
slideshow today. All the arrows really, really tasteful. I have a few questions actually. The first question that I have is I'm wondering if you can provide for us. I know last week you gave an update on the student rights cards. You said you were going to potentially hopefully speak to Dr. Ha about their implementation. So I was wondering if you could update us on that. And then also my second question is, I know you had said training is a really high priority. You mentioned in this presentation that you hopefully will have training all done by the end of this week. So I'm just wondering, is that feasible? After this week, do you envision just a really formal launch of case? I know you're already hearing cases, but
so good questions. So the student rights cards, I've been emailing the person who schedules meetings for Dr. Ah back and forth, and they just I think I emailed them like 2 days ago, and they just haven't responded. So I don't know. Like I'm trying to arrange a meeting, but they're just not being very receptive. So I'm gonna keep trying. And then so like if we can meet this week, which I'm hoping we do, then I will report back on that. But I mean, it's just like there's been a lack of like good communication. Yeah. Nadia Towers. Yeah. So we went back and forth a couple of times, and I emailed back, and I'm like, yeah, like this is my schedule, and then I just didn't hear back. So I mean, it happens, right? It's not.
Trying to figure out Fontes.
Yeah.
I don't have Fontes booked until like November.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But we'll figure something out. Your second question was.
I know you mentioned in your presentation you hope to have training finished by the end of this week. Do you feel like that's feasible? And after that, how do you envision like a formal launch of CASE? I know you had said that you wanted to get everybody trained and then there'll be like a formal launch.
Yeah, okay, good question. So I do think it's feasible. I think like most people, because we're trying to schedule trainings like in the evenings later this week. And like the people who can't make it, which I imagine will only be a few, because like looking at people's schedules, at least on staff, it seems like most people are available in the evenings, but people who can't make it, they can do like individual, like they can meet up with, Regina and she can go over this material with them for Title IX, for example, et cetera. And then, yeah, for the formal launch, it's probably like, there's definitely going to be like graphics and stuff on social media. We might also do a video depending on how much the staff cares to do that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, ideally that would happen next week. And it probably will, even if like, I'd say like if the majority or like good majority of staff is trained, I'm probably going to do the launch because, I'm not going to like hold out because of like one person not being trained.
Other questions? Senator Friedman?
How many of these positions have been filled so far? I know that we have, a few today to appoint, right? But
Yeah. So yeah, good question. So the chief advocates, almost all of them, because they have to be confirmed by the Senate. There are 3 people remaining that have to be confirmed. That's Ryan, Isma, and Julia. I don't know where she is. But if she isn't, I guess she's not going to be confirmed this week. But she's the other academic affairs person. So you all confirmed Cassie Moore last week is the first one. Yeah, the 3 people.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Do you want me to give that back to you?
Yeah. All right, I am going to save my reports for good of the order because I know some people have to get out of here. So we will move into new business. Once I can pull this up. All right. Reports from committee. So the CRP met before this. They both favorably recommended the 2 candidates that are new business. Originally, the agenda had 3. The third individual was not able to make CRP, and therefore will have to postpone their confirmation. Questions for CRP? Cool. Moving to new business. First, the confirmation of Ryan Barter to be Joint Chief Advocate for conduct. Sorry, I'm just a little thirsty.
No, I told you to throw it to me before, but you didn't do it. Hi, everyone. So sorry for CRP. You're going to have to hear this little speech again, but welcome to everybody else. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Ryan Barta. I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Speaker, and everyone who came here today on this rainy afternoon for this confirmation. So I first joined student government my freshman year, being a senator like all of you. Ever since that moment, I have been committed to the advocacy of the students at American University and all members who are present in our community. After leaving the Senate my sophomore year, I joined CASE, and I've loved the organization ever since. As a first-generation student, college was extremely difficult for me to handle, not only with academics, but also with navigating the resources that AU provides and the procedures that AU follows. This is exactly why CASE is so fundamental to helping every student who walks in our door. Every student should feel represented and as if they have a voice. Last year, I was able to not only advocate for individual students with specific cases, but also university advocacy, such as helping ROT students with priority registration and writing policy on bias-related incidents. This has been work that I've loved and been committed to, which is why I'm here today asking for another year. As for this upcoming year, I'm excited to assist Director Hawk and the rest of our team on all of our initiatives. I'm personally hoping to work with our team on goals involving mental health advocacy and awareness, as well as financial aid, since I've navigated that process multiple times, sadly. As some of you might have known or not known, it was Suicide Prevention Week last week and also my birthday, which is why I started a fundraiser for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. As someone who's had experiences like this in my life, I want to work with CASE, the university, and especially this body on legitimate mental health awareness, concerns, advocacy for the student body, especially related to conduct. It's an extremely personal issue for me, and that is why I'm very passionate about this and hoping to add another level to it in regards to CASE.
As a whole, I am passionate about this school and the purpose of this organization, and we'd be grateful to work another year fighting for students on this campus. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions for the nominee?
Give me one.
Senator
I
Robbins.
asked you previously, I'm sorry, you can restate it for the other members here, because I think you gave a good answer before. Conduct is so sort of like all encompassing. If you can tell us like how you see conduct, what to you fits under conduct, I think that would
Yeah, so
be a great answer before.
of course, so as I said before, conduct is literally everything on this university. It has to do with the residence halls, living off campus even, classes, professors, it's everything. So every student's need is individual, which is why just looking at this presentation before, the breakdown of how we are running CASE this year and have last year too, but more organization is fundamental to that purpose. It involves so much and it's so wide ranging. Like I said before, I would lie to you if I said I knew everything about the conduct process, because I don't, because it's that's so far ranging and so multifaceted. But that's why I'm excited to be not only a joint advocate, to have a team that can help me and assist me with that. I just think we need to be there for every student's concerns. If a student walks in our door, I don't want to be able to turn them away. So therefore, I want to make sure that our procedures, the conduct procedures, and the university policies are clear, and they're just not clear enough. I'm pretty sure. Does anyone know where the conduct document is? The conduct code document is on this university? No. So I just think that's important to have awareness and also make sure that students know they can come to us for literally anything, and we'll be there for them.
Other questions? Senator Cannon.
You spoke about mental health awareness, and I was wondering if that is a policy matter that you're looking to
So
advocate.
I got you. So it's both. So obviously it's a policy matter for me. You know me, Tom, I've always loved policy. However, it's also, I think we need to realize mental health awareness in regards to a conduct case. If someone's is charged with something or if they have to defend themselves, and mental health awareness involved with that, and mental health in general. I think that's something that's always left out and can really hurt a lot of students in regards to still attending this university or any charges that go against them. So we just need to, that's a discussion that I'm willing to have, that I want to have. And I want to open that dialogue up because I think it's something that we're just ignoring and not paying attention to.
Other questions? Seeing none, if you would like to move.
Thank you.
Discussion on the nominee. Senator Robbins.
I just want to say, I think Ryan is incredibly qualified. I think conduct does encompass so much of, it's just all encompassing. And he has the experience, he's been a senator, he is involved so much on campus, and I think he'll be a perfect advocate. So I think I'm going to be voting for his confirmation. I hope, and I urge my other senators to do the same.
Other points of discussion. Senator Kenna.
Yeah, a resume point that Brian didn't talk about was that in his freshman year, he was the president of Anderson Hall Council. And I think that experience working in the residence halls could definitely benefit his working conduct on behalf of CASE. So it seems like there's a consensus that he's pretty qualified for this position, and I'd like to move to confirm him by unanimous consent.
Second.
There's a second. Is there any objection to confirming Ryan Barrio by unanimous consent? Hearing none, he is confirmed. I didn't bring the gavel. I didn't want to get it wet, so.
Oh, I thought those before.
All right, moving to the confirmation of Isma, right, Khan, to be the chief advocate for financial aid.
All right. Hello, my name is Isma Khan, and I have been nominated for the position of Chief Financial Aid Advocate for CASE. For years, CASE has guided students through the conduct process, but this year, the addition of Financial Aid Advocate will ensure that students are given a fair chance when dealing with their financial aid appeals. As Chief Financial Aid Advocate, my purpose will be to guide and inform students of their options, explain the general aspects of financial aid, and assist students in completing the tasks needed to obtain financial aid. This will be particularly helpful to new students, first generation students, and any student wanting to know more about the financial aids process. I'm particularly capable of this position because of my experience with financial aid. I'm a first generation student who had to navigate the financial aid system alone when entering college. As a result, I researched extensively to better understand the processes such as applying for FAFSA and acquiring and submitting the appropriate documents. I am more than well aware of how daunting the experience can be for students, especially when there's no safety net for them when things go wrong. I'm heavily reliant on financial aid and have fostered good connections with counselors at AU Central and have learned a lot about how to keep financial aid, how I may lose it, and how to navigate the system better. With all the things I have learned, I believe I'm the most qualified for this position. It is my duty to help the students around me understand how financial aid fits into their college experience. I hope the Senate confirms this nomination as it is in the best interest of other AU students. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the nominee? Senator Robbins.
I didn't ask you this question during CRP, but it did just occur to me. Will you also be helping students fill out appeals for financial aid when they want to appeal what their offer is to get potentially more? I know that's always been a big thing for some students.
Yeah, so actually the main focus of being like a financial aid advocate is to help with appeals. Of course, like we do help with anything else relating to financial aid because it's a very complicated process, but our main focus is appeals with students. I actually have helped one student write his appeal. We're still working on his process, but it's definitely something that we all have experience with. So.
Other questions? Seeing none, if you wouldn't mind leaving the room.
Sure.
Discussion on the nominee. Senator Kenna.
If I could pose a question to Director Hawk, I just asked if you could speak to the nominee what was her experience in case and what how she could.
Yeah, so I've known Isma for she was in the case last year. I think Will made her the chief advocate for financial aid in the interim period late last semester. But I pictured it as she's very reliable and responsible. She's a good person overall, but specifically for financial aid, that has been her area of expertise. There is I can say without a doubt that she is the most knowledgeable about financial aid matters out of everyone in case. And when I met with Gene Logan, who I spoke to you all about, one of the first things he said was "Oh, do you know who Isma is?" I was yeah, she's hopefully gonna be the chief advocate. And he explained how they have developed a working relationship. So not only does she have the knowledge, but she has the relationship with administrators that I think is going to be valuable to students who come and seek her help.
Other question or other points of discussion? Yes, Senator Robbins.
I'll just say this. I think financial aid is obviously something that's so incredibly important. It touches all of our lives, and it's a major sort of talking point that a lot of people discuss. And I think Ms. Khan is very well suited. In CRP, she gave a great answer to what I talked about in terms of what are some of the issues with financial aid. And I think we need somebody who, like Saram said, who is well known with the administration and who can actually work with people as well. So I'm going to be voting for her nomination, and I would hope my other senators would as well. I also hope we can continue asking really important questions because these jobs, these positions are really important. They impact people's student life. They impact their stresses, the things that they can live with. So I know I ask a lot of questions, but I'm not going to apologize.
Other points of discussion. Senator Chen.
Yeah, I haven't worked with Isma. I think she's super, she's someone that's beyond just her administration connections and her expertise in financial aid is very committed to case and committed to her work. Whenever I went in the office, she would already be there. We have mandatory office hours every week. I'm office hours, she's not there. She went to every single one. She was always there, and she's very committed to not only just being a good chief advocate, but the mission and the purpose of case. So I'm going to move to nominate her.
Okay.
Second.
There's a second. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee by unanimous consent? Hearing none, she is confirmed.
It's like the Law and Order, dun dun.
I half and half, that makes sense.
Yes, please, I need you to do something. Come on, bro, you with us like 20 minutes ago.
All right. Any further new business for the Senate?
I like it.
Seeing none, we don't have any old business, so we'll move to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to good of the order. First to executive good of the order. Any executives for the good of the order? Seeing none, moving to senators for the good of the order. Any senators? Senator Zitzman.
All right, I have three things. First, if any of you want to work in small-scale programming and have kind of free reign over whatever you want to do, you should join the class council for 2019. I'm technically the president of that, and no one else is on the council or applied. So whether or not you're in the class of 2019, we could use your help. We could have an official position. Second, the last piece of Senate work that I think I will do this term is going to be to resurrect something we did last year about foreign languages. I started to write a report on that to give to some administrators, and I'm bringing that back. So if you're interested in curriculum and AU's foreign language offerings, I could use some help with that as well. And last, I feel like I'm going to take a little bit of Trevor's thunder away and remind everyone to keep at the grindstone for this upcoming referendum, because we have a month before voting, just about a month exactly. So we need to spread the word on social media and get people. If you know freshmen, they're going to vote in the fall election. They're important. And also, I think an easy voting group for the referendum where we could kind of expand the voting pool, and it would be kind of just not that hard to get them to vote for it, is people who aren't really involved with campus, because you can just tell them, organizations need more money, and they probably won't feel super strongly about it either way. So that would be a good way to expand the pool of people who normally vote in these sorts of elections. So yeah, referendum is important. We gotta get to it.
Any other senators? Senator Robbins.
Yes, I'll just say I want to echo everything Bobby said. I just want to say again, this is crucially important. It comes at a time where the time is now. We need to act. We need to be sharing. There's a lot of already misinformation that's going out there. A lot of tensions are really high. It just needs to be the most accurate information as possible right now. And then once the campaigning actually begins, once that season opens, then we can actually really start making our case. But that is really crucial. That right now it's the most accurate information. I'm sure we all heard this week about this new policy with AUCC. I don't know. I know, Colin, you're a member of AUCC. I don't know if you'd like to speak on that. That's student activities. So not AUCC. So we need to be making sure that it's the most accurate information, because the problem is people's tensions get really high, and it's all sound, it's all noise. And we have to really kind of discern all that sound and noise, because if we want this referendum to pass, and we don't want it to just pass by like a hair, we want it to pass with a large majority, then we need to be doing the work, right? So that's important. Trevor's only one person. He's a great person. I love this man. Really, who doesn't love Trevor? I mean, come on. But he can't do it all on his own. So we need to be really helping him out here. Oh, and also this week, sorry, Tom. I just want to remind everybody, on the 25th, there is a voter registration drive going on in the library. I'm participating in that. I'm not registered to vote, but I want to help other people get registered to vote. So help your fellow Wonks, your fellow Eagles register to vote. It's very important. This is a very important election.
Sorry, Kenna.
Thanks. Donna has an excused absence today, so she's unable to talk about the Committee on Accessibility, Transparency, and Accountability. Remember the acronym today. We tried to meet last week, but unfortunately due to scheduling, it didn't work out. But there are still initiatives that we're trying to work on in terms of accountability of the executive branch, and how can the Senate better oversee their activities and better safeguard student finances and things like this. So even though, whether you're a member of the committee or not, definitely reach out to me or her about how to get involved in that the Senate term is not over yet, and there is still work to be done.
Other senators for the good of the order. Senator Friedman.
I believe this past week, there was elections for the RHA. They might have been special elections, I'm not really sure. They were normal elections?
They're hall council.
Okay, so that was kind of my point. I feel like I'm a little bit disappointed. This is my first election through this, but I did vote. I had no idea who the people were, and I was really hoping to, once I got onto the election ballot, be able to read biographies about the candidates and stuff, but unfortunately there just wasn't a whole lot of information, and I did ask around people in my hall and just some friends that I know. Nobody else even knew that was really happening. They saw posters and they didn't really understand what they were for, and I don't know, it was just a bit of a disappointment to me. And then I know that this organization doesn't have much oversight of that, it's a separate thing, but just in the future, I think it would be better to see. And also, there are a lot of vacancies. I've noticed already on their Facebook page. There are about 5 positions that just nobody ran for. So I don't know. I just like to see more publicity in the future.
Senator LaJosie.
Hi. So the RHA and student government are completely separate entities. So I'm the vice president of the RHA board, so we can meet and talk about that. But yeah, AUSG and RHA, totally different things. So.
Other senators for the good of the order. Cool. Yeah, Senator Kenna.
Could I ask Colin, who's on AUCC, to talk a little bit more about kind of campus news about AUCC?
So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you saw the Eagle article about policy change. We've had a few, but the big one about charging admission or not allowing that anymore for any events on campus that are funded through Club Council. Like Jacob talked about, it's important that the correct information is shared with students. The policy didn't come from Club Council, it came from student activities, and it was handed to us last year when we met to talk about our policy. It was basically said this year we will put it on paper. We do not allow clubs to charge admission for any events that are funded by the student activity fee, because students have paid that fee already. Forcing them to pay admission would be kind of making them pay for the event twice. I know there are different opinions on it, but that's the policy we have in place right now. I know it's been met with a lot of backlash, and a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about it without actually understanding the information, which has been very frustrating for us for the past week. But we have already started working with student activities to amend the policy to work with groups as best as possible, because different ones have different needs. Groups that are nonprofits, we don't think that the policy really works that well, because that money isn't generating revenue for their group. It's just being donated to whatever organization they support that isn't affiliated with the university. So there are specific caveats that we're working at to make the policy more beneficial for student groups. And the other thing we're saying to them is that complaining about it on Facebook and sharing articles or writing long posts isn't very productive. We have an office that is open 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it is always staffed, and we have candy. People can come in and chat with us. Very few people do, and it makes it difficult to have a discussion about it when people don't actually want to come in and talk. The other thing is, this policy is in place right now, but it was written, which means it can be revised, it can be taken away. And what I tell club leaders who come to talk to me is that spend the semester trying to work with it. If it's tough, that happens and policies change and we understand that it can be tough. Come to us in December and say, this negatively affected us, here's the proof on paper, and we'd like to figure out a way to fix it. That is the best way for us to work with our counterparts in student activity to make the policy better, because in the end, we're doing things in the best interest of the student body, even if it doesn't come across that way initially. The goal is to do things that'll benefit people as best as possible.
Senator Robin.
Can I just ask you, Colin?
Yeah.
Just some questions. The first, because we were talking in the finance committee, there's a little bit of confusion. So, is the policy basically if there's a philanthropy group, they're exempt from that, they can't charge admission, and is the other, so just that clarification, the other clarification I'm wondering about is it, Bobby, what were we talking about? Is it,
Is it
can you not charge admission if you charge admission for one event, can you not get any AUCC money for the rest of the year? Or is it like event by event? Like, do you know that? And then also, like, what sorts of efforts do you like? Is AUCC gonna be doing to make sure that this is clearly communicated? This is not our policy. It's a student activities policy.
Yeah. So tell me your first question again.
Sorry, I throw a lot of shit.
Yeah.
The first question was about like philanthropy events being able to still charge admission.
Yeah, so I don't think anything has been put down on paper right now because the policy was just introduced and we're just coming up with the different issues. Nothing's been put down on paper. I think working towards allowing groups that are supporting like philanthropy projects to charge admission, that's something like I personally am in favor of and I'm working with student activities and the rest of the club council team to actually put in place. I don't think it's in place yet, but that's in the working stages and hopefully we will be able to do something like that. I definitely like to see that. You asked about
if they charge admission for one event, does that mean they can't take any AUCC money for the rest of the year? Is it just by event basis?
Yeah, so it's an event by event. If we fund it, they can't charge admission, but if they pay for it out of their revenue, it's whatever they like to do because then students aren't paying for it twice. And then your third question was about
like what sorts of things will AUCC be doing to effectively communicate this is not your policy, it's student activities?
Yeah. Well, we have a club orientation in the fall. It was 3 sessions. We had almost every group on campus attended. You can't request funds if you don't go, so all of them, or if not, an overwhelming majority of them went, and we explained the new policies, where they came from, and how we're trying to work with them. So it was made clear to club leaders that the policy didn't come from us, it came from student activities, and they're having us enforce it. And also just things like the article in the Eagle that if students go in and actually read the entire article, they will read it on paper. Brian, our chair, talking about the policy coming from student activities. And we're also very open about it, and student activities is too, that the policy came from them. And if people come to ask us, we explain to them exactly where it came from. I think we're trying to share the information as best as possible. And if students want to come and have conversations about it, we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Colin.
Other senators for the good of the order? Okay. So as for me, I'll just give my officer reports now as well. Sorry I had to dip out at the beginning. I had to go talk to KPU about the referendum, just clear up any confusion that was there. So that's why I had to step out because their meeting is also at 1 o'clock. So Senator Zitzman and Senator Robbins were more of the good cop on this, but so that means I have to be the bad cop. How many in this room have liked the Facebook page for the referendum? How many senators were in the room when we pushed the referendum to the fall ballot? How many people, can anyone tell me what was posted this past week from the Facebook page?
Got some frequently asked questions, some concerns, some really nice graphics.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I am one person, like Senator Robbins said, and everyone in this room was there when we introduced the referendum for the ballot, and we all participated in the discussion, or not me, but everyone was in the discussion for the referendum, why it was happening, why it's on the ballot. No one spoke up really against it. No one, everyone was for putting it on the ballot. So everyone in this room, since the Senate put it on the ballot, should be advocating for it. Now, I'm not going to tell you, and I'm not going to force you to advocate for or against it, or you do whatever you want, but I'm just saying that because the Senate passed it, there is sort of an expectation that, you are advocating or at least spreading information about the referendum. And because the Senate passed it, that's why it's fallen on me, because I am your advocate. So I have to speak on behalf of you anyway. I'm a senior, so this won't affect me next year. So I don't have to really worry about this. I could have handed this off to someone else, or I could have just waited until the ballot came out and just hoped for the best. But that's not the case, because we all know that with fee increases, it's very difficult on this campus because it's so expensive to, justify those reasonings and to get people on board. And, I understand that this campus is very expensive. So another fee increase is, even more of a detriment to a majority of our students on campus. But like the launch of the referendum was like almost 2 weeks ago. We only have 37 likes, and like I only have so much of an outreach. And so like if I can share it and get like 30 or 40 people to like it, think about every single other senator sharing it and inviting people to like it and get another 30 or 40 people to like it. If people like the Facebook page for the referendum, then they will see the updates, they will see the information, they will become more aware. And we're in a very weird situation right now because you can't go about like just pushing yes, 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 because we're not in the campaign cycle and that's what our bylaws say. But what you can do and what we have been doing is simply spreading awareness, you know, like telling people what is going on. There's nothing against telling people why this is happening, like what it is and what it does for, you know, student activities in general. It doesn't just affect student government, it affects club council and affects student media too. And if we like, if we have like a month, like Bobby said, until the election, until the vote occurs. If not everyone is behind it, or if I only have like 2 people sharing things that are put on Facebook or on, you know, like if I ever get an email sent out for like campus wide, like if I don't have any support there, then no one's going to know about it, and then there's not going to be in favor support to increase the price. And so, like, if that's how people want it to happen, like that's fine. Like I don't have to do any more work. Like I will do what I can do, and then that's it. But people aren't looking at this as an investment. Like if we get students in favor of raising the price now, it will help us for another 4, 5, 6 years down the line. Like I said, it doesn't affect me, so like I don't have to really care about it, but I am because I want student government to be like effective and efficient in the future. I want club council to be able to fund more clubs on campus because that's where the heart of our community is. It's in the clubs. It's the different things that they do, and it's also student media. Like all that funding goes right to all those organizations. So that's really like all I have to say. Like there is a Facebook page, there is an Instagram page. I also have an actual website that I build with all the information on there. It's like all there that you can refer people to, even frequently asked questions, or if people want to contact the campaign, they can. But when I see a video, obviously it's like someone has to engage with it. And but it answers questions. Like it answers the questions that people have. And when you only have 4 shares, and like one of it is my own personal account, like I only do so much, guys. So yeah. So just keep that in mind going forward. I ordered business cards with I think I showed you guys with pictures and like contact information, and then the QR code with people to be able to reach the website and things like that, just to get informed. Like that's all I really want, is to make sure that people know what's going on. If they vote no, they vote no. But as long as they are informed, then I feel that my job was completed out successfully. So, just think about that. All the clubs that you're involved in, talk to people there. I'm very accessible via, text message, email, Facebook Messenger. Reach out to me. I will answer any and all questions, concerns, comments that you have or that your friends have. But I really need people to help just step up and start sharing things and start actively engaging in the campaign. For those that have been involved in student government campaigns, like executive board campaigns in the past years, that's what this effectively is. And it's just like me. It's like me doing all of this. So imagine running for the presidency and doing it all yourself. It doesn't happen. There are teams for a reason for these campaigns.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I'm a little bit confused. Are we allowed to take an individual stand and tell our friends, hey, I am in support of this? That's not necessarily saying I think you should support this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can say that you're in support. We can't push people to vote yes until October comes around, until election cycle starts. But until then, you can talk to people, you can tell them what's going on, what's happening, direct them to all the information that's available, things like that.
And we're allowed to explain it to our individual friends that, yes, I support this because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, besides that, make sure that you're going to office hours. We still have, I think 5 weeks, I said. 5 weeks, and if I have to suspend you before, the term ends, that's just not gonna look good. So please don't make me do that. And definitely reach out to your fellow senators, Senator Zitzman's working on stuff still, with the academic foreign language stuff. If you're interested in that, do that. I think that's my rant for today. What's the other thing? Oh yeah, I want to say congrats to everyone that ran in the RHA elections. That was, I saw some things about it, and that was great. And seeing all those that were elected, and coming from I used to be in the hall council and things like that. I'm really excited to see who's there, and see what y'all can do in the future, or in this semester. I think that's everything that I have. Are there questions, comments, concerns for me or the referendum today? Okay. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
I have not. I really that I'm being if you count it against me, you can count it against me. But yeah, we need to do the plan. And I don't know how much I'm going for this, but I'd love to talk to you for a little bit because I've done my announcements campaign, so I'd love to talk about some strategies that I have. I don't know if you're free after this.
I am free, so
let's do it then.
That's a neat back on.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's very neat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you call it? I don't know if it's campus.
Messenger.
Yeah, messenger over the
shoulder. I think it's just to wear
it's raining. You have a jacket.
I have a sweater.
Oh, okay. There you
And
go.
an umbrella.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Trevor, I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you want me to end this live stream?
Oh.